Someone said Oregon football coach Dan Lanning is untouchable right now. They might be right. I'll explain. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button down below while you're watching so you don't miss a single episode. Today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later in the episode. Coming up, got a lot to talk about. Dan Lanning, untouchable. We'll explain what that means. Somebody else said it, but I like it. Plus, Curt Cignetti getting ready for year two. Does he have the quarterback that can improve on their 11-win season? And Juju Watkins might break Caitlin Clark's records. And we have our Tuesday tweets as well. Oh, did you hear there's a naming rights deal for Penn State's Beaver Stadium? We got it all right here, plus our tweets. All right. Dan Lanning seems to be a very happy football coach at Oregon right now. He's coming off a year in which his team won the Big Ten championship in their first year in the Big Ten. That was impressive. They were ranked the number one team in the country for most of the year this past season. That was impressive as well, even though it ended up in a disappointing fashion when they lost their rematch to Ohio State. But a lot of good things happened for the Oregon Ducks this year. And it seems like they're going to stay up on this elite level for some time. All is well, it appears, for Oregon. And the school knows it. So a week ago, they stepped up with a $66 million extension for him, about a $3 million a year raise for Coach Lanning, putting him near the highest paid coaches in the country. We, of course, did a podcast on it last week here on Locked On Big Ten. But since the contract extension and the announcement, essentially sports went so far as to say that Lanning is now untouchable if anybody wants to steal him away. Thought about that for a minute. Might be right. The buyout is still at $20 million, which is lofty, but no big deal for some of these other schools out there. And every man has his price. There's no doubt about that. But Lanning may have been untouchable once he got this contract extension, because I look at the situation. When we looked at this podcast a week ago, there were a lot of things we noticed about Dan Lanning over the past couple of years. For example, he didn't even flinch when Nick Saban retired and Alabama needed a coach, and everybody wants Dan Lanning to be their coach. Didn't even flinch. I'm happy. I'm staying at Oregon. So he wasn't interested in that. Or the year before, he announced right away, I will not be the new head coach at Texas A&M, when that job opening caused a flurry of rumors. And a lot of people, again, would want Lanning to be their head coach. If he were to ever step aside at Oregon, he'd get a job in a heartbeat. But, as we pointed out also last week in our podcast, why would he ever want to leave? The only reason he would probably want to leave are for family reasons. If, for example, he or his wife didn't want to be in the Northwest anymore for whatever reason. That doesn't seem to be the case. I've actually heard him say that he and his family, they love living out there in Oregon. So everything's like perfect out there for him. They got a lot of money at the school. He's got a lot of money. The school's got a lot of money. The program is backed by a lot of money. They have one of the best name, image, and likeness collectives in the country. And he's got this program rolling. He's always top 5 in recruiting. He's always top 5 in the transfer portal. I think Oregon used to be viewed by some as a stepping stone job to a great job. I think it's always been a good job. I think others used it to get great jobs. Chip Kelly left for the NFL. Willie Taggart left for Florida State. By the way, where's he now? Mario Cristobal bolted for Miami. I think those days are over. I think Dan Lanning took a great job and made it a greater job at Oregon. Love to hear from you Ducks fans on this, by the way. Chime in with your comments on YouTube as well. I still want to continue talking about Oregon here. We got spring football and a lot of excitement around the corner. And as spring football gets going, a lot of eyes will be on young quarterback Dante Moore. The dependable high completions percentage play, that has been a staple under Dan Lanning at Oregon. Remember, Bo Nix wasn't that great of a quarterback at Auburn until he went to Oregon. And then his high completion percentage, he became a completion machine. So much so that he finished a successful rookie season in the NFL now with the Denver Broncos. And Sean Payton turned himself into an NFLer, or I should say Dan Lanning helped him do so. Dillon Gabriel surprised everybody over a year ago when he says, hey, I'm transferring to Oregon, went into Autzen, picked up where Nix left off with a percentage completion in the 70s. And now he's going to be in the NFL in a month with the NFL draft. One thing you could say for sure is that Lanning's offense is very, very quarterback friendly. Dante Moore. Dante left USC kind of in the midst of the Chip Kelly departure over there when Kelly was the head coach before he went to Ohio State, become the offensive coordinator. And he played a good bit his freshman year there at UCLA. And then he came to Eugene and had to sit behind Dillon Gabriel for a year. I don't think that was a bad thing at all. Behind the scenes, the two of them, by all reports, worked hand in hand. They pushed each other. They roomed together. And now Moore should emerge ready to go. And I think a lot of people are interested to see how he does. I think it could be exciting. He's athletic. He's more athletic than Nix or Gabriel were. And the only thing was at UCLA, he only completed 54% of his passes there. But I think that's where fans will see the most improvement in his game. Again, after all, he was a freshman when he was playing there at UCLA. So I wasn't too alarmed by the low percentage completion. But, he's been practicing, taking backup reps behind Dillon Gabriel. But now the players he was practicing behind, a lot of them are gone. Like a lot of that offensive line's gone. He's going to have different weapons to throw to than he's used to. So there's going to be a bit of a curve, some necessary adjustment period here, I think. But he's got, a quarterback's best friend in a running game. Nice luxury. I think they're going to be okay there. Of course, George James is gone. Noah Whittington, if he can stay healthy, he could be a boost as well. He's a veteran's veteran now, a 6-year redshirt senior. But Mekhi Hughes is another one I'm very interested in seeing. He comes from Tulane with 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns on his resume from last season. That's pretty exciting for the Oregon Ducks offense. So can't wait. That's all what spring football is all about, kind of putting the pieces together, setting the table for another season. And we're looking forward to all that. And for the Ducks, yes, they are having a spring game, unlike some schools. They are going to be slated for April 26th for their spring game. It is going to be 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, because it's going to air on the Big Ten Network. And we can all look forward to all of that. And by the way, the Ducks open up their regular season August 30th, hosting Montana State. They host Oklahoma State before kicking off Big Ten play at Northwestern September 13th. Of course, the game to circle on the schedule this year, September 27th, your Big Ten championship rematch. It's going to be at Penn State. Penn State hosting Oregon. I got more news on Penn State and their Beaver Stadium in just a minute, so hang for that if you're a Nittany Lions fan. But like last year, we all circled that Oregon-Ohio State game in October. We're going to circle the September 27th game between Oregon and Penn State, a rematch of that Big Ten championship. Looking forward to all that. Hey, be sure to subscribe down below. Follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And if you don't mind, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. That helps us out a lot. Would always appreciate that. We also have a website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts go, and you could buy all your favorite Oregon Duck shirts, hats, t-shirts, pennants, coffee mugs, all that stuff. Get a plush doll of the duck, all right there. talkbig10.com. So check that out as well. All right, we still have a lot of work to do. I want to get to all of it here. A lot I have to get off my mind here and share it with you. Will Howard He tells how he really feels about one of the Ohio State coaches. Indiana's Kurt Cignetti, ready for year 2, got a new quarterback. A new naming rights deal at Penn State, and Caitlin Clark's records may be in jeopardy. Whoa, who would have thought that so soon? Plus our Tuesday tweets. It's a busy, busy episode. All that coming up in the next minute here on Locked On Big Ten. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to unexpected upsets, these guys are showcasing the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. So this week's Armada and clear-cut team of the week are the Duke Blue Devils. Yeah, it could be a non-Big Ten team, right? John Shire's team, led by National Player of the Year candidate Cooper Flagg, just ripped through the ACC going 19-1. The Blue Devils were plus 434 points in ACC games, the largest point differential by a power conference team in league play since Kentucky in the 1950s. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Duke Blue Devils have done here. It's clear that our team of the week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, and Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Well, I thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate that for sure. And all you everydayers out there, thank you for making this go. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you don't mind, down below, and share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And check out our website, talkbig10.com. 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes quarterback Will Howard had a very successful season and a national championship to show for it. And he said he would have been disappointed if Ryan Day had not promoted Billy Fessler to the quarterback's coach position. Fessler had been an offensive assistant, an analyst actually, and worked closely with Howard and the quarterbacks this past season. And a lot of attention was given to offensive coordinator Chip Kelly regarding Howard's improvement in his one season at Columbus. But Howard gives a lot of credit to Fessler. And Fessler is a former Penn State quarterback, and Howard really related to him. And the improvement is undeniable. In 4 years at Kansas State before he was at Ohio State, he was just a 59% passer, like every year, all 4 years. And his game really jumped so much during the Buckeyes national championship run and the season that preceded it that he's going to be drafted in next year's NFL draft. He's going to be an NFL quarterback. Meanwhile, Fessler has some work ahead of him with exciting sophomore Julian Sayin, and he and new offensive coordinator Brian Hartline, they have some high expectations for the highly recruited quarterback. Indiana's Kurt Cignetti, he spoke to the media after the first day of spring practice, and he said the team had a solid day. And he said this team did not finish last season the way that he wanted. It was a playoff loss to Notre Dame, of course, capping off an 11-2 season. And by the way, that was the best season in Indiana football history, but he was not happy with it and how it finished. And he starts year 2 at the helm in Bloomington and says last year meant nothing. Everybody is 0-0. It's time to get to work. Quarterback Kurtis Rourke is gone. He'll be drafted by an NFL team next month. But the Hoosiers are excited about Rourke's replacement in Cal transfer Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza put up decent numbers at Cal last year while being under duress with a poor offensive line. He was sacked 41 times. Indiana has a good offensive line. Had a good one last year. Going to have another good offensive line this year. And Cignetti says he's trying to get Mendoza to be comfortable in the pocket. That was something he did not have a luxury to do last year at Cal, and he's working on him getting the ball out of his hand quicker, but still in rhythm. These are some of the things you work on in spring ball. Now, if you are an everydayer, you know that Locked On Big Ten has updated you on the $700 million improvements and renovations that are being made at Penn State at Beaver Stadium, and now it's time to cash in. The school's board of trustees just approved a deal for a 15-year, $50 million deal with West Shore Home for a naming rights deal. So for the next decade and a half, the field will be called West Shore Home Field at Beaver Stadium. Get used to it. It rolls right off the tongue. So, by the way, the final vote, that was interesting from the Board of Trustees. It was by no means unanimous. So there are some traditionalists that are like, no, man, we're not naming anything. We haven't done it for years. Others are like, let's get with the times. This is where money is at. It was a 22-8 vote. And former players Brandon Short, Matt McGloin, and Jay Paterno voted against the measure. Just some of those were 3 of the 8 votes right there. But it moved ahead, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be calling, got a new name for Penn State, and the money's going to be coming in. Do you think about a year ago this time, we were all in amazement each and every night when Caitlin Clark would play for Iowa. It seems like every night she was breaking some sort of scoring record. And that included Pete Maravich's all-time scoring mark, men's or women's basketball. Well, USC star Juju Watkins just passed Clark in one regard. She followed up last season when she scored the most points ever by a freshman. Now, with a three-pointer in Sunday's Big Ten championship game against UCLA, the 19-year-old Watkins passed Clark's mark for points scored in her first 2 seasons. It eclipsed Clark's total of 1,662 points. Now, Watkins isn't exactly on pace for all of Clark's scoring records. She would have to keep up for the next 2 seasons because Clark really started off well, but Caitlin Clark really took off her scoring, really raised it to a whole nother level her junior and senior years. So Juju Watkins would have to really ramp it up to catch up to Caitlin Clark's marks. So we'll see what happens. Juju Watkins is a phenomenal player, even though the Trojans came up short against the UCLA Bruins in the women's Big Ten championship game on Sunday. But they may meet again. I have a funny feeling UCLA and USC will meet again in the NCAA tournament. Meanwhile, the men's basketball tournament gets underway tomorrow. And got a couple of games. First of all, the schedule goes Northwestern's taking on Minnesota. That's at 3:30 Eastern. The winner of that takes on Wisconsin on Thursday. Iowa will take on Ohio State at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern tomorrow. The winner of that will take on Illinois on Thursday. USC takes on Rutgers at 8:30, and the winner of that will take on Purdue at 9 p.m. on Thursday as well. We do have an early game. Well, actually, the early game Thursday is the Indiana versus Oregon game, a rematch from a game about a week ago. So, anyway, that's some of the schedule for the next day or so around the Big Ten tournament. And don't forget, then Friday, the teams that got the double buys, the Wisconsins, the Marylands, and Michigan, all those schools, UCLA will get into action, and we'll follow it all right here on Locked On Big Ten. Semifinals are Saturday at 1 o'clock and 3:30 Eastern, and then on Sunday, the final will be at 3:30, and that will lead us into Selection Sunday, and we find out where all the teams and who's getting in the NCAA tournament, how many Big Ten teams will get in the tournament, who they're playing, what they're seeded, all that. Obviously, we'll talk about that on Monday's podcast with a lot of excitement as well. Speaking of excitement, we got a lot more coming up right here. I want to talk about our tweets. We got Tuesday tweets, some good ones out there. That's coming up next. You can hang on to that. It's all coming up right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. I want to tell you about Roy. So attention to all you Big Ten fans out there. If you ever wish you could directly support your favorite Big Ten athletes, part of their journey, if you will, now you can with Roy. The name, image, and likeness app that puts you in control. Before Roy, NIL deals were often handled behind closed doors. And fans like you didn't have a clear way to directly support the players that you love. And now with Roy, you can make a real impact and feel closer to the athletes representing the Big Ten. So with Roy, you get to choose the player you want to support, decide how much you want to contribute, and get exclusive content straight from the athletes right back to you. The best part of all of this, if your player ever transfers, you get your money back. So it's a risk-free way to show your support and make your voice heard. So support your favorite players directly and help shape the future of Big Ten sports. Download the Roy app today from the App Store and start backing Big Ten athletes the way that they deserve with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite Big Ten players with Roy. Time now for our Tuesday tweets, our segment that we do obviously every Tuesday. And you can follow us on Twitter at Talk Big Ten. We see something on there that you put that we like, we'll put it on the program every Tuesday that we do this. In fact, if you're new to our podcast, we have features at the end of every podcast. Mondays, we do our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, we like to power rank something, whether it be standings or uniforms or coaches, all that kind of stuff in the middle of the week. Thursdays, we look ahead to the weekend with Big Ten classics and live action on the Big Ten Network, which we follow, even though we're not associated with them. And then we make our picks on Friday of whatever season we're in, the games coming up. We always like to do that. So let's put it on screen. If you're audio only, we'll describe in detail what we have here for our Tuesday tweets. And we start this one off with at Who's Your Soldier. This is the post game on CBS with Mike Woodson, the head coach of the Hoosiers, with his players behind him. This is a senior night, their last game. They just beat Ohio State, and the Hoosiers are playing well now. Winning like 5 of their last 7. A couple of ranked opponents going down, and they went from having no chance of making the men's NCAA tournament to pretty likely now, I would think. Maybe they have to win this Oregon game in the Big Ten tournament as well. But Mike Woodson was a player at Indiana back in the day under Bob Knight, and he's stepping down at the end of the season. And now with winning 5 of the last 7, he's like, well, maybe I announced my retirement too soon. He says, everything I've ever become, I became here in this building. And it was a bit of a tearjerker. It says enough to make a grown man cry. Here's one from Indiana spring football practice from Jeff Rob Johns. New Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza during the opening day of practice. Nice little video of receivers running routes and getting a good look at the new quarterback in Bloomington this year. Meanwhile, at Buckeye Blitz with a Ohio State montage of players and Ryan Day and the national championship trophy and 2025 national champions with the Ohio State logo. It says, in case you forgot. That's right. Buckeyes are champions. Here's another one. They were out there. This is from at Brutus Wayne. It says it's a picture of the trophy and a Buckeye helmet in front of it. It says, I'll edit. Darn, it feels good to be a champion. Just a reminder, national champions. Speaking of Buckeyes, this is former Buckeye Eddie George. This is a picture of him getting off a plane on a snowy night with his suitcase. From at Bowling Green State University Athletics, the newest Falcon has landed. Your new Falcon football head coach, hashtagger at Eddie George. Big announcement over the weekend. He was at Tennessee State, and now he's at Bowling Green. That'll be interesting. Looking forward to that. This is from at Big Ten Women's Basketball, stars of the show, and it's a montage of Big Ten women's basketball players from the tournament, the all-tournament team. Lauren Betts there of UCLA, Juju Watkins, some other great players around the league. Nice little montage. That was a good tournament, capped off by a good championship game between USC and UCLA. The Bruins are winners. Congratulations there. Meanwhile, here is a video montage of Michigan State basketball from the Michigan game. This is from at Fox College Hoops. And on the bottom is a video of a little melee near the end of the game at center court. A little pushing and shoving going on. And Tom Izzo on the top talking to the crowd on senior night. Nobody changes our tradition. They like to bend down and kiss the floor there, the logo on the floor. A little skirmish at the end by Michigan. And they weren't too happy at Michigan State about that. Here's a happy crowd. This is a nice shot of inside Assembly Hall from Jeff Rabjohns again. Strong crowd today at Indiana. Student section is packed at IU Crimson Guard, hashtag IU basketball for the season home finale at Assembly Hall. Very intimidating place. At Big Ten Network putting out this, I will see these teams in Indianapolis, all the logos of the men's basketball teams that made it into the tournament, 15 of the 18 teams. And they look good, all nice and orderly with 3 rows of 5. We've got Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State, Northwestern, Oregon, Purdue, Rutgers, UCLA, USC, and Wisconsin make it into the Big Ten tournament. We'll see how many of those teams make it into the NCAA tournament. Here's another grid of the same thing now with the school logos from at Casual Big Ten, the Big Ten tournament bracket that we just went over. Then here's what it looks like if you put the logos on. Kind of cute. Thought I'd put it on there. Anyway, that's it for Tuesday tweets, and hope you enjoyed that. If you want to get yours on, feel free to hit us up, and we'll put it on our Tuesday tweets. Send us a tweet at Talk Big Ten, number 10. Always looking forward to hearing from you there. Many ways for you to interact with this program, including Twitter, X, our website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts go, and you can get your favorite merchandise. Be sure to subscribe if you don't mind. Just hit that button. It's that quick. It's free. And you can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available every day. And you won't miss an episode. We appreciate that. Also, I want to give a shout out to our friends at Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. They know college hoops as well as anybody. Entertaining podcast. It's March. You need to be locked into them as well. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. That'll do it for us. Another episode. I never take it for granted. I always thank you. I always ask you to tell your friends and family members about us if they're Big Ten fans. Still, people discovering us every day. They don't know we're out here. And we keep plugging along and growing with leaps and bounds. We'd like to have a few more. Let them know we're out here. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll talk to you next time.